Hey guys, how's it going? Today we are going to crack open our dahlia crates and see how they wintered over in the root cellar. Now we're treating most of our dahlia crop differently than we have for the past few years. It's a complete experiment. We're hoping it works. We have some like 400 dahlias we plant every year out in the cut flower garden. It is such a huge chore to dig and separate and store all of those that we are attempting to overwinter them in the ground, even though we're a zone 6 and what are dahlias, like a zone 7, 8. So it's risky, but our wintertime temp didn't below, I think, 9 degrees Fahrenheit this winter. So given the fact that they have a huge amount of mulch on top of them, we should be okay. Our process this fall was to clean off all of the, dead foliage off the top. We rolled out silage tarp over the top of the whole area, which protects the tubers from excessive moisture. I think that's one of the bigger reasons why they die, is they rot out from excess winter moisture, and then also from rodents. Hopefully we don't have any rodent issues going on underneath that tarp. But on top of that, we put a bunch of straw and leaf mulch, I mean at least a foot, if not more than that, on top of them. So they should be nicely tucked in. I'm hopeful that it worked. Before we did all of the business out in the cut flower garden with the mulching, we did dig roughly 75 of the varieties out, just one of each of those varieties that I wanted to make sure to have to keep just in case the experiment didn't work out. And that's what we're going to be getting in today. So they were dug one day, they were put in here for the night, and then they were going to be cleaned and sorted the next day. And our heater kicked on and they were right underneath the heater. I think some of them dried out. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to find today, but I think we're going to head to the root cellar now. I think what we'll end up with today, we'll divide, divide the tubers. We're going to get them into some pre-sprout trays, kind of like we do with our ranunculus and anemones, to see which ones are viable. And then when we see which ones sprout, we'll pot those up and have those growing on. I'm hoping to just fill in gaps in the garden for whatever doesn't come up in the patch. This year might be a complete loss for dahlias. I have no idea, but you know what? It's worth it if it works. So here in the root cellar, I think we've got some in here. I bought some at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival in Seattle and just popped them in here. Let's see. Ooh, this is a big one. And this one, Lady Liberty. Let's see what we got. There's some desiccation here. Let's see. All we need is one. We just need one of these tubers to work. A little bit of squishiness, not bad. Yeah, there's gotta be at least a few on each clump that will work. Still have some great onions left from last year's crop. They haven't even sprouted yet, or barely just starting to sprout. I think I've got about 7 crates in here that have dahlia tubers in them, so we'll get them moved to the greenhouse. I want to get set up, and then I'll walk you through my process here. Okay, I started to kind of dig out some of these tubers, and there's several that are not viable, which, I was kind of expecting to find that. So not a big deal, but there are several that are great, that still look really good. So we should get a number of nice tubers today. Let's look in here. Oh yeah, what I can see already looks pretty good. Oh my, oh my. So some of them will get several. This is a Colorado Classic. Look at these tubers, my goodness gracious. And this is kind of what we're going for right here. I opened up one of the ones I just bought. You can see the body of the tuber here, the neck. Sometimes the neck is more apparent on some than others, but that's kind of the skinnier area. And then there's the growth point, which you usually see like little swollen knobs up there. And that's where you will see growth come out. So oftentimes when you buy them, you just get a single tuber. Sometimes they come in like groups of 2 and 3. I don't know anybody who sells them like this. It would be incredibly hard to package these to where they didn't break, because like you can see right in here, I've got a broken tuber. Like that one's not viable anymore, because you have to have all 3 parts of your tuber in order for something to grow. So like right here, this is a great example. Here are my tools. I use a pruning saw, a pocket knife, or a lot of times just my Felcos. We get in here like this. You cut it off like that. And we've got our body, our neck, and a growth point right here. And there's Russell. Hello, dude. So right here, you can see the body, the neck, where it skinnies down, and then right here, You can kind of see a growth point, maybe a couple of growth points. So you want to make sure when you're cutting them to get far enough down to where you get those growth points, which might mean that you sacrifice the growth point on another one. Russell, you know what? Dude, you're making it a little bit difficult. Can you get down for a minute? This is a great one. Body, neck, and growth point right there. So depending on the clump, because some of them will grow to where they're very open and nice, some of them grow really tight and they're incredibly hard to cut apart. You do get better at it as you go along, and you also get more confident and you get less picky about things too. I find, like, the further on into these projects, now I did figure out that I only have 5 crates. The other 2 that I thought I had dahlias in, I actually have ranunculus and anemones that I need to work on here in the next couple of weeks. But anyway, yeah, when you are taking after some of these clumps, sometimes you will just need to sacrifice some of the tubers. They don't all come off clean, and that's totally okay. Like this one looks pretty good too. Like, all tubers don't look alike. This one's all forked, and then there's a neck and a growth point right up here, so this one we can save. So it's likely, like, I'll pre-sprout all of these. Some of them may not sprout, and the ones that do, I might even give some of them away. So we might end up with more than enough. And you know, we have put together a few more videos in the past years. Maybe we can link those down below if you want more detail, where I took a clump and really dissected it slowly, showed you all the cuts I was making. I know for me, I'm such a visual learner that can be helpful. We store ours in vermiculite that we lightly moisten. Like, we add the tiniest bit of moisture in there, and we have to in our dry climate in order for them not to dry out in storage. We typically check on them about once a month to make sure everything's going okay, but that vermiculite we use from year to year. I use it on top of my seed trays too when I'm starting seeds. So unless you notice any kind of mold problem or any kind of bugs in them, it needs to be clean vermiculite, but we do save it and it works well. Cats are real interested in this project. There's Cheddar. Okay, let me put all of these in the same pile. Let's dig around in here a little bit more. Oh my, this is a big one. Oh my goodness. Of course, this one's terracotta. My goodness, terracotta grows, it's one of the best, most productive dahlias we have, but it always looks like such a mess to divide, and I will be sacrificing quite a number of these in order to get in there and get really good cuts. I mean, I'll be happy if I get 4, like 4 really nice, maybe smaller clumps. You don't have to cut them all the way down to 1 tuber. You can leave them in small clumps if that's easiest. One on the loose. We're gonna have some non-ID'd ones in here too, I'm sure. Okay, here we go. Oh, which one's this? Clyde's Choice. Whoa. Nice big tubers. They stored beautifully. It's like a treasure hunt. Pet Blue Eyes looks pretty dried out. Old Rose. Ooh, this is a pink water lily. Yay. Is this one good? Yeah, we've got some good tubers there. Yep, this is about what I was expecting to find after they spent an evening underneath a heater before we got them packed away. But mostly they're pretty good, and I think we're gonna have some really good dahlias from this. So I'm just gonna set up here, and we're gonna spend the next little bit. I don't know how long this is going to take dividing, and what I'm going to end up with at the end of the day is just separate crates full of the same varieties. Each crate will have its own variety in it, and then tomorrow we'll come back out after they've had a chance to dry. The cut ends will have a chance to dry, and we'll line them up in trays and get the pre-sprout process started. So anyway, let's get all of these divided, and then I'll show you what we got in the end. So you can see here the body, the neck, and then look at that growth point right there. That's awesome. So I actually am going to take, I think, this one and this one together. That's perfect. We can trim all of this nonsense off right here. I'm gonna clean them up a little bit. That's perfect right there. Body, neck, eye. So I'm gonna just take the one. Okay. Turned out perfect. too, right there. There we go. They are all done, divided, and even though we didn't get all 75 of the varieties that I think we pulled, and that's just a guess, I think I tagged 75, but I can't quite remember. I didn't write it down anywhere, but I think with all the divisions here, I could just about plant our entire patch with these. I'm not going to, but I could. One of the clumps, this one right here, Sonic Bloom, 30 divisions from one clump of tubers. There are just some varieties that go for it. Terracotta and Sonic Bloom probably being two of my most productive varieties. I think they're both kind of in the orangey pink territory. Okay, so you can see the heater right here. The heater shoots out this way. In fact, I even checked all the louvers and tipped a couple of them up. Right here, the helichrysums that I'm wintering over, which are just about ready to start blooming, they don't dry out super fast. So I think they're gonna be safe right down here. I think they would actually be worse off if I had them further this way because there's more airflow. I'm gonna put a piece of harvest material over the top of them just to be sure, and it'll still allow air and light, but it'll protect them just in case. And even though I'm not gonna do all the pre-sprouting today, these divisions right here are pretty dry. I could probably pick through there and start the pre-sprout on some of the first tubers that I cut today. They do dry fairly fast, but you do wanna make sure they're good and dry. But I wanna show you this process. I did this for you last year and it worked really great, but you can see like this clump right here, I just left because that's a small-ish, like they're small tubers and it's easy to fit down in a pot. Same with this. Which one is this? Giggles right here. So we got 5 divisions, could have gotten more off of that one. Oh, 6, I guess. Okay, so here's what you do. You take some potting soil like this, just a thin layer at the bottom of a tray. And we are going to lay our tubers in this tray with their growth point or their eye facing up, kind of like this. In fact, I kind of remember this from last year. I'm going to create kind of a mound right here so they can kind of rest up on it. Okay, so see that right there? The body of the tubers are kind of cruising down into the soil. These all should sprout. And then we take more soil here and we just cover the body of the tuber, or as much of the body as we can. We leave the growth points exposed. Make sure to keep our ID in there. And I'm gonna fit a couple other varieties in this same tray. Then I've got my watering can. We're just going to lightly water them in. This is a watertight tray, so we don't want to do too much. So what pre-sprouting does at this point, like it's way too early if I wanted to pre-sprout and then plant them outside. We can't plant dahlias until May at some point, but since I want to pot these up and have them growing on and ready to go once, you know, ours start to grow out there, I wanted to pre-sprout them now and get them potted up, and I will keep them in the greenhouse. But pre-sprouting is great for a couple of reasons. One, you can get a head start, kind of like pre-sprouting your ranunculus and anemones. You get some growth on them before, you know, ones outside typically start to grow. Also, it's a really good way to check viability. Something in my hair, hang on. This is usually a really quick process. We keep them somewhere where it stays fairly warm. Last year I did this process in the studio, and I even put them under a grow light because I thought that it would speed up the process, and they did sprout really quickly. I think I'm gonna try it in here. Everything's doing so well in here in the greenhouse where we have the temperature set. Right now it's 80. It's 80 degrees in here right now, and I'm kind of roasting at this point. It does dip at night, but typically not below 60, so we should be okay. They should do all right in here. The lower temperature at night might mean they will pre-sprout a little bit slower, but I don't have grow light room in the studio right now, and I think they'll get a lot more light out here. But keeping that growth point exposed and then just giving that little introduction of water will spur on growth right away. So you can do this with your own dahlia tubers when it gets closer to planting time. I mean, you can do it as early as this if you have space and you want to, you know, give it a shot and get some growth on them, but you have to make sure you have good strong light for that process. If you don't have strong light, you'll probably have a little bit weaker plants once they're ready to go outside. But if you hold off and wait until like 2 or 3 weeks before your actual planting time outside, let's say you plant them usually at the end of May, like maybe the 1st or 2nd week of May, you start the pre-sprout process. And that way you know which tubers are gonna start to grow, because you can see growth on them. You know which ones are worth actually planting outside, because sometimes, especially if you're a beginner, it's hard to tell which dahlia tuber, I mean, they all look dead. They look like potatoes. You know, and sometimes they'll grow even when there's like a little bit of breakage on the neck or you don't even see an eye. They're pretty surprising. So I don't know, I think it's a really fascinating process to watch that and just to see, I don't know, I learn a lot in that process. So in this tray here we have Giggles, which I was noticing I have a tag over here. So I'm not exactly sure how many varieties we actually pulled. I thought I only tagged one of each variety, but I might be wrong. So my numbers might be completely off. I don't know, I don't really track anything like that. I did notice there were a couple of tags like that I don't even care about. Bishop of Oxford, I was just saving it just in case maybe somebody else wanted to have it, one of my friends or family, but that clump didn't actually survive, but I'm not sad about that because they weren't that great of performers for me. And then there was some other ones like Star Child, which is a really interesting, it doesn't really look like a dahlia, and they grew really wild, kind of thinner stems, and they kind of like undulated a little bit, but they suffered from powdery mildew so bad, which we don't deal with in our area. So I was kind of like on the fence about whether or not I wanted to grow that one again. And then there are a few that I want to make sure I replace. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting process this year. So anyway, I'm actually very happy with how it turned out today. I'm thankful for the amount of tubers. I'll still be able to give a few of these away depending on how things go in the pre-sprout process. I'll probably sprout, pot them all up, and then I'll give them away once they're growing and I know what we don't need out in the garden to fill in holes. So other than that, things are going great in here. I mean, look at these ranunculus. I actually popped this one out of its can this morning because I thought, I wonder what's going on in there. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna need to repot these again at some point. And seeds are coming up. There's all of our hollyhocks. We've got foxglove up, Rudbeckia up, Eryngium up, yarrow up. I think I even saw a couple of echinacea up. Look at this. Little, I don't know if you can see them, but echinacea seedlings all over in here. Yay. There's just all over. Yay. That's exciting. And I think I already showed you my tools, but boy was this one handy. This knife right here, it's got a little curve on the end and it's super sharp. In fact, I got it out of its package today, so first day of use, and that was really good. I use my Felco 2s a lot, and then I do use a pruning saw. I'm gonna go take these in and clean them all up right now, but these are all very handy to have. And then I did use a garden marker on a few of these tubers. It would be ideal to take the time to write on each tuber because this does last for a couple of seasons. I still see writing on some of the tubers on these that I made maybe 2 seasons ago. So isn't that amazing? Like they spend a ton of time underneath the ground with a bunch of water and soil around them, and this still lasts. This is I don't even know what brand, garden marker. My parents' garden center has sold these forever. Oh, I also use a brush a lot to clean the vermiculite off of the clumps of tubers, and that's very helpful too. And any loose dirt, because sometimes there's, you know, dirt clinging to the tubers and you can't really see where to make your cuts. So it is handy to have just a big soft paintbrush like this one. And you guys, I think that's gonna be it for today. I mean, you know what I'm in for tomorrow morning with all the tubers. I'll just line them up in trays with soil and I'll keep you updated and let you know how things go with the pre-sprouting. Hopefully we just have a greenhouse full of dahlias here in a little while. Also, quick side note, dahlias are incredibly easy to start from seed. So if you don't wanna make the investment in tubers and you like to start things from seed, just give it a try. I mean, they're very, very easy, and they create tubers that first year. They'll create little clumps. They bloom the first year. They may not be quite as robust of a plant as they would be if you would have started with a tuber, but it's just like a 1-year investment and you still get to enjoy the blooms. And it's a fun process because they grow fast. They're very satisfying to grow. So anyway, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.